how a single failure created a global power. It began with a collapse so sudden it stunned everyone involved. A plan that once looked promising crumbled in an instant, leaving behind a silence heavy enough to smother hope. Most people walked away, convinced the story had ended. But endings have a way of disguising themselves as beginnings. Failure can be a brutal teacher. It strips away illusions, exposes weaknesses, and forces a clarity that success often hides. In the business world, some of the greatest transformations rise from the wreckage of something that didn't work. And to understand how this particular downfall created a global force, we must return to the moment when everything fell apart. Before the failure, the team behind the idea believed they were on the right path. Their product had potential. Their model made sense. Their momentum felt steady. But markets don't reward confidence. They reward alignment. And something deep within their strategy was drifting out of sync with the world around them. Customers hesitated. Partners pulled back. Signals hinted at trouble long before anyone admitted it. When the collapse finally arrived, it wasn't a single mistake. It was a chain reaction, weeks of slipping metrics, hidden flaws in the design, a miscalculation in timing, the kind of slow-building tension that ends in one decisive break. The team watched the numbers fall, powerless to stop the downward slide. The vision they had nurtured for years dissolved in front of them, but buried in that failure was the fragment of a truth no one had noticed, a pattern hidden beneath the noise, a need the market hadn't spoken out loud yet. And while the world saw a dead end, one member of the team saw something different, a gap, a pain point, an opportunity disguised as defeat. This is where the reveal begins. Because the collapse didn't destroy the idea, it refined it. It forced the creators to look past what they wanted to build and finally understand what the world actually needed. And in the shadow of their most painful moment, a new direction quietly emerged, sharper, simpler, and far more powerful than anything they had attempted before. A single failure had cracked the old path open, and through that crack, a new empire was waiting to rise. The collapse left the team staring at the pieces of what they once believed would change their industry. But when the noise settled, they began to study those pieces more closely. Failure, when examined instead of avoided, reveals truths hidden beneath ambition. And in those scattered fragments, the team uncovered insights that had never appeared in their months of planning. The reveal deepened. Customers who abandoned the product left behind patterns in their feedback, subtle threads connecting frustration, expectation, and unmet needs. The team realized their original vision wasn't wrong. It was incomplete. They hadn't misread the opportunity. They had misread the priority. And in that distinction lay the seed of a breakthrough. Still, rebuilding was not an easy choice. Investors lost confidence. Advisors recommended abandoning the project entirely. The market had already moved on, shifting its attention to newer, shinier competitors. The team felt pressure from every direction to accept defeat and walk away. But something in the data kept pulling them back, a recurring signal that refused to disappear. So they went deeper. They revisited their earliest notes, revisited customer interviews, revisited moments they once thought irrelevant. Slowly, a pattern took shape. Beneath the failure was a single unmet demand that no competitor had addressed well. A feature so simple it had been overlooked by every major player. Yet it carried the potential to redefine the entire experience. This discovery forced a decision: continue polishing the old product, or rebuild everything around the insight the failure had uncovered. They chose reinvention. The redesign phase began with brutal honesty. Every assumption was questioned. Every feature was stripped down. The team dissected their own habits, examining the information the failure had exposed. They worked with new discipline, guided not by ambition, but by alignment. Alignment with what the market truly craved. But progress came with tension. As the new idea took shape, internal disagreements surfaced. Some feared the new direction was too narrow. Others worried it was too bold. And as prototypes rolled out, the team uncovered deeper structural issues buried beneath their original architecture. Fixing those issues meant rewriting core systems, a decision that carried massive risks. Yet amid those frustrations, something important happened. The new prototype sparked reactions the original never achieved. Early testers leaned in. They asked questions. They saw potential. And with every round of feedback, the new direction grew stronger. But momentum attracts pressure. And just as the team felt the first flicker of hope, an unexpected challenge emerged. A competing company quietly working on a similar concept, threatening to claim the opportunity before they could bring it to life. The conflict waiting ahead would determine whether their failure became a stepping stone or their final chapter. The pressure hit like a tightening vice. News of the competing concept spread quickly, igniting a sense of urgency that rippled through the team. They had assumed the opportunity revealed by their failure was theirs alone to seize. But innovation doesn't wait for permission, and somewhere else, another group had quietly arrived at the same conclusion. Now the race was on, and the team was already behind. The conflict deepened. Their early rebuild, once steady and hopeful, began to feel fragile under the weight of rising expectations. Timelines shrank, goals shifted. The team pushed harder than ever, trying to refine features before the competitor reached the market. But speed came at a cost. Mistakes slipped through. Communication frayed. The same pressure that had once unlocked clarity now threatened to fracture the group entirely. In the midst of this tension, deeper structural issues resurfaced, remnants of the old system they thought they had left behind. Core modules buckled under new demands. Integrations failed without warning, and every glitch felt like a countdown to being overtaken. The team scrambled to repair the foundation, but each fix exposed more complexity. The rebuild that began with confidence now felt like a battle against time. Outside their walls, the market sharpened. The competitor leaked early demos, generating whispers across forums and industry circles. Analysts speculated about a major shift coming. Investors nudged the team for updates, hinting that patience was running thin. The story was slipping away from them before they even had the chance to tell it. Yet in this chaos, something unexpected happened. The failure that once humbled them began to serve as their guide. They remembered what the data revealed. They remembered the patterns customers showed. And they remembered the truth uncovered in the wreckage, the core insight that sparked their reinvention. That clarity became their anchor. The team pivoted again, not out of panic, but out of precision. They stripped features down even further, focusing on the single advantage only they truly understood. They rebuilt flows using hard-won lessons the competitor hadn't learned yet. They crafted the experience around the deepest need the market had expressed, the need hidden beneath the noise, the need no one else had recognized until failure forced it into view. But the emotional peak hadn't yet arrived. As they prepared their first full-scale test, a major issue struck. The system collapsed under a load far smaller than expected. Logs filled instantly. Servers froze. The product went dark. It was a devastating setback, one that echoed their original failure with painful familiarity. For a moment, it felt as if history was repeating itself. But buried inside that collapse was something vital, a flaw so deeply embedded that only a full-scale test could have revealed it, a flaw the competitor hadn't encountered yet, and likely wouldn't discover until their own launch. This insight changed everything. The team now understood that their path wasn't just about matching a competitor, It was about outlasting them. And with the truth laid bare in the darkness of another near failure, they prepared for their final push, carrying a renewed determination born from the fire of every setback they had endured. They approached the final rebuild with a calm intensity, the kind that comes only after every illusion has been burned away. This time, they weren't chasing perfection. They were building with purpose, guided by every failure, every warning sign, every moment that nearly broke them. The flaw uncovered in the collapse became the catalyst for their sharpest breakthrough yet. Piece by piece, they reconstructed the system around the deeper truth the market had been signaling all along. Old code was replaced. Processes were redesigned. What once felt fragile now took on a sense of deliberate strength. And as the new architecture took shape, the product evolved into something unmistakably different. Not a competitor's alternative, but a category-defining experience. Then came the moment of release. They launched quietly without theatrics, letting the product speak in the language customers understood best. Reliability, clarity, simplicity. The first wave of users arrived cautiously, expecting familiar glitches, but the system held. The second wave arrived, larger and louder. Still, it held. And by the time the third wave surged in, far exceeding projections, the product didn't just hold, it excelled. This was the climax, the point where failure transformed into strength so convincingly that even competitors couldn't ignore it. The rival company, once poised to dominate the new opportunity, struggled to match the stability and insight embedded in every part of the rebuilt platform. Their launch stumbled, their systems buckled under stress, and the market quietly shifted its gaze toward the solution born from reinvention instead of imitation. The team watched as momentum carried them forward. Partnerships formed, influencers spoke, users converted in record numbers. What had started as a desperate reconstruction now stood as a defining standard, a global power built not on flawless execution, but on the courage to confront and learn from collapse. In the resolution, one truth became undeniable. The journey that nearly destroyed them was the very thing that shaped their greatness. Their failure wasn't a detour. It was the blueprint. It removed the noise, sharpened their vision, and refined the idea until only the essential remained. Because in business, success isn't written by those who never fall. It's written by those who rise with a clearer understanding of where they're going and why. Subscribe to join the journey. How a